Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 in our chats with Emily, as we are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We are using the Thomas H. Johnson edition, and we turn out to poem 636, The Way I Read a Letter's This. Now, right away, just look at the first line and look at how amazing Emily plays with language. So, for example, we can read this as, the way I read a letter is this, and then she's going to tell us her method for reading a letter, which she will do in this poem. But then there's also the possibility that the word this is actually the message of the letter. So in other words, the way I read a letter's message, the way I read a letter's this. It's quite brilliant the way she'll play this game. Now in many ways we're back to the double letter of 494, happy letter there, as well as the letter of 169. This poem is going to be an answer in small part to the question we've been asking for a while, guys. How did Emily read? Now, of course, what did she read is a question of ours, but how did she read? We would love to know, how did she engage a text? One scholar has said this little drama has been one of Emily's most popular poems, calling it a little drama I love, because when we did this with my Emily group in our study to prepare for this lecture, we had one of our students actually try to mimic all of the different actions of this poem, and it was revelatory, and it was also kind of comic. Now, we will find Emily at some of her most intense here as well. She takes reading very seriously. Now, we've said this already in earlier lectures, and that is our assumption. You've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net. Down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily is our playlist. Hopefully you've worked through our set of introductory comments as well as the preceding 635 poems that we've studied. We just finished with 635, I think the longest hour. Now, in many ways, we've called this series Chats with Emily because of a poem like this, where Emily almost does something like this. She goes like, hey, psst, come here. Let me tell you how I read. Let me tell you how I read a letter. The tone of this can actually be read not as serious, but almost like mocking in a way, and I'll let you decide how you want to read it. Now, Emily was a great letter writer and as well a receiver of letters. We know that she wrote and shared many, many more letters than we have in our possession, sadly, and almost all the letters that others received, unfortunately, were destroyed, so we don't have as many in terms of the letters she wrote and the letters that she received. But for Emily, clearly, reading is kind of a sacred ritual of a type. We'll see as she outlines it here. One scholar has said Emily's love of privacy, her shyness in all things, is now evident in a poem like this. And another scholar pointed out that this one makes letter reading the most intimate form of communication possible. All of that, I think, we will enjoy as we ourselves get to have a little peek on the way Emily will enjoy a letter. The way I read a letter's this, 'tis first I lock the door and push it with my fingers next, for transport it be sure. And then I go the furthest off to counteract a knock, then draw my little letter forth and slowly pick the lock. Then, glancing narrow at the wall and narrow at the floor, for firm conviction of a mouse not exercised before, peruse how infinite I am to know one that you know, and sigh for lack of heaven, but not the heaven God bestow. Now, as is typical of it, so many levels we can read this poem on. In its most superficial epidermal level, right, surface level, it's obvious that she says, when I get a letter, I treasure it, and I love to be alone, secluded. Think about this. This is a woman who spent most of her adult life in her bedroom alone. And here she gives us a little bit of an insight into what it was like. And she'll begin by saying, the way I read a letter's thus. Now, of course, by the way, the word letter ends up in 13 of her poems. Of course, we think about the letter of 441. This is my letter to the world that never wrote to me. Go back and do that study. The way I read a letter, though, is, and now with the dash and the word this, as we said, makes it fun to read this on two different counts. By the way, let's pay attention to the F sounds of this poem and the L sounds of this poem, right? She says first. Now, in many ways, this is like going back to poem 536. Do you guys remember when we did this one? The heart asks pleasure first, and then excuse from pain, and then those little anodynes that deaden suffering, and then to go to sleep, and then, if it should be, the will of its inquisitor, the privilege to die. This idea of then. In other words, a drama. Yeah, she creates a little drama. Let me tell you how I read. She says, first, I lock the door. Notice this is, of all of her actions, this is the quickest and the shortest one. I lock the door. And push it with my fingers next for transport it be sure. In other words, I double check to make sure no one will intrude on me. Notice the secretive nature of the letter that she received. Now, of course, she doesn't tell us what letter from who or whom she's received. She just tells us, this is how I will treat something precious. Now, of course, today, guys, we got to say this. We live in a time where most of us, we don't write letters and send them in the, what is referred to affectionately or unaffectionately as the snail mail. We rather send texts and emails. We'll maybe ask at the end of this lecture if, in fact, there's a difference in your mind and what it's like to receive a handwritten letter. She says, and then I go the furthest off in the room. So she goes the farthest away from the door to counteract a knock, right? So in other words, go maybe even to the corner and sit, maybe in the floor. You know, you could see her hiding to read this. Then she says, I draw my little letter forth. Now, of course, the word draw is fun because it has double meanings, doesn't it? To bring out as well as to physically draw, right? And notice the use of the word little. As we've said over and over again in 172 of her poems, she loves this word little to emphasize the fragility, the smallness of it all. Draw my little letter forth and slowly pick the lock. Now, of course, this is brilliant, isn't it? Right? This is like a treasure chest. If only I can get the lock, you know, somehow undone. I can open the treasure chest and there's the treasure inside. Of course, she's talking about, for those of you who maybe even never received a letter, a formal letter like what she's referring to, where it's been sealed and now you have to unseal it. And in the old days, you didn't like to tear the envelope because you might damage something inside the envelope. So you had some kind of special way to open the envelope, whether it was with a letter opener or whatever. Notice here she'll pick the lock. It's a brilliant way to talk about opening a letter. Then, now we're to the next then. Glancing, looking around, narrow at the wall, narrow at the floor. In other words, one last time, before I actually open the letter, I'm going to make sure nobody else is here. Again, some people have seen this tone as kind of mocking and hyperbolic. And for firm conviction of a mouse, not exercised before. I told you guys about her love of the small animals and rodents and that kind of thing. In other words, I just want to make sure. And again, this is Emily's wit at play. In other words, she's letting us in to her confidence by telling us how she plays the game of reading a letter. And then the word peruse. Only used in this case one time. In poem 1682, peruser will be used. Peruse, in other words, it's more than just reading. Peruse carries with it the idea of looking, reading, as we say in 303, reading on multiple levels. Peruse how infinite I am. She loves this word infinite. She'll use it in 31 of her poems. And of course, the construction of I am is quite remarkable. Peruse how infinite I am to no one that you know. And all of a sudden you realize, oh, this whole poem, she's been talking to you. Again, Chats with Emily this is one of the reasons that we called our series Chats with Emily, a poem like this, where she says, I'm not going to tell you who this poem is from. Again, this is Emily doing her best to not want to identify people in her poems. We've seen this many, many times. Of course, who the you is that she's referencing, who knows? She says, peruse how infinite I am to no one that you know. And then sigh. So the last thing. We think, of course, of our study of Dante, the Divine Commedia, especially Inferno. Remember, we've given full lectures at learnstrong.net. Remember that in one of those moments that people walk in a circle and sigh. Right? Here it's sigh for lack of heaven. Now, of course, what is the heaven? Well, it isn't the heaven that God can bestow once one dies. No. We commented on this, and we've seen this already in a number of poems. Emily's not interested in that heaven. Or she doesn't seem to be interested in it right now. She said the closest I can get to heaven is A, reading from this person, and then B, considering the potentiality that I could actually be with this person. But she says, not the heaven God bestow. Again, heaven in 135 of her poems. Now, when we get to poem 1639, we're going to come back one more time. Do you guys remember that we have said a number of times that when we meet short poems, poem 1063 says, ashes denote that fire was. Poem 1639 says this, a letter is a joy of earth. It is denied the gods. And again, I mean, what a brilliant observation. Why? Well, the gods know everything. They don't need to open letters. In other words, there aren't any secrets for the gods because they know everything. They're omnipotent. What a tragic life for the poor gods. This is Emily's observation. How sad would it be to not be able to receive a letter from someone and then be so excited to open it up? It's quite brilliant, quite a brilliant insight. Well, how are we going to talk about messages at 2A here? I think Emily is pointing out that reading is a private, sacred affair. And I'm going to use that word affair intentionally because it seems that maybe she received a letter from someone that she deeply cares about. And maybe she believes they care about her as well. In fact, they think of her as infinite. At 2B, well, the tone is interesting. It's Emily kind of sharing some of her secrecies. Again, it's almost like the poem should be read in a whisper. And practice reading it in a whisper and see how it plays for you. And again, all the F sounds, all the L sounds, I mean, they're quite remarkable. First, fingers, for, furthest, forth, floor, for, firm. How about the L sounds? Letter, lock, little, letter, lock, lack. And then the K sounds throughout the poem as well. Lock, next, counteract, knock, pick, lock, conviction, exercised, lack. Emily's in fine form here. At 3A, how are we going to relate this to other texts or other authors? Well, think about all of the great letter writers that we study in room 303. John Keats, Jane Austen, of course, the great Franz Kafka. And when you visit in Prague, that amazing museum, how many of the displays are just Kafka's letters? Think about the letters of Virginia Woolf or Henry James, and of course the great John Steinbeck. Finally, in 3B, to own a poem like this. What was the best letter you ever received? And do you think that a text and an email is the same thing as a letter? And who is someone that maybe you should send a handwritten letter to be inspired by Emily? I hope Emily is inspiring you, in your reading especially. Thank you.